Scott just made the point yesterday.
It used to be a lot more secure, not just.
If Democrats nominate Hillary Clinton, the Republicans' likely male nominee will face a new challenge: how to run against a woman in front of an audience that's more than half women. I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by my testosterone-rich colleagues Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, a panel that has no right to discuss this issue by accident of our birth, but who are not sensitive enough to know it. Listen, men, remember when Barack Obama damned Hillary Clinton with faint praise, calling her, quote, likable enough? 7 years later, she's still adorned with that necklace of lead. It's so bad that she's actually lost primaries to a socialist geezer with bad hair who shouts at voters and promises to raise their taxes. Now, assuming that women alone bear the additional burden of likability, the Washington Post recently reported on a study from the nonpartisan Barbara Lee Family Foundation that offered tips on likability to estrogenous politicians. Among the survey's likability suggestions for women seeking office: use candid, informal photos, not headshots. Share personal stories and share credit for your successes. Work hard on serious issues you care about, but don't take yourself too seriously. And since you're being judged by shallow people, pay attention to your appearance, but nevertheless, try to project some confidence. Now, Stephen Green, you remember the firestorm that erupted 16 years ago when, during a debate, New York Republican Senate candidate Rick Lazio interrupted Hillary Clinton, approached her, and breached her personal space. What tips can you offer a male Republican running against a female Democrat before a vast audience of female voters?
Now, let me kind of break this down. If you're Donald Trump, practice being a good loser, even though that's completely antithetical to everything Donald Trump, for good and for bad. But his negatives are so high, you can just forget about Florida, you can forget about Virginia, you can forget about North Carolina, you can probably forget about Ohio. I saw a thing today on Twitter from Jay Cost from the Weekly Standard. Trump puts Mississippi into play. Mississippi and Arizona. These are, gimmies for the GOP. So just practice a little humility. If you're Ted Cruz, I'm going to tell an awful story. Ted Cruz has this what I call a likability deficit. He comes across all too often as lecturing or preaching to his audience. But a dear friend of mine, years and years ago, unfortunately I lost to cancer, but David had this surefire way of seducing women, and he dated this seemingly endless string of women. But he had a surefire method, and I swear I can't tell you how many times I watched him do this. And you know what his trick was? He would listen to what a woman was saying and then repeat it back to her so that she would know he was listening to her. It was the simplest trick I've ever seen in the world, and it worked time and time again. So to any candidate, any male candidate, I will say, listen. Don't preach, don't hector, don't lecture, but listen and repeat back what you've heard so that people understand that you have listened. You know what? That's not just good advice for guys. I think that's good advice for everybody.
Well, Bill Whittle, conservatives and Republicans don't like to slice and dice voters according to race and sex, but the reality is men are from Mars and women are from, well, I'm not really sure where women are from. I'm a man. I don't understand any of that. But it's possible that the GOP will nominate a man with historically high female disapproval numbers. Now, not that he would take your advice anyway, but what would you tell him about navigating this sex trigger minefield?
Well, first I'd tell him to read Steve's article, 8 weird tricks to use to get women to vote for you. Number 5 will blow your mind. So there's some clickbait for you, Steve. He's right. I mean, really, it is. Look, my knee-jerk impulse would be to say, if you really want to get women to vote for you, you should debate the Hillary Clinton using terms of affection and endearment to women. Like when Hillary Clinton makes a point, you go, actually, that's not bad, baby. You really got a point there, sweetheart. And I think that'll go a long, long way. That's obviously precisely what you have to avoid, right? I think the way you win women's votes is the way you just. No, I'm not going to finish the sentence. One of the techniques that you can use when you talk to children can be effective in terms of winning women's votes, because I was about to say the way you would women's votes is by talking to the way you talk to children. That's not exactly what I'm saying. When you talk to children, people who connect to children don't talk to them as if they're children. This is the point I'm trying to make. When adults who really do connect to children don't, how did you have a special, they talk to them like they're people. And as Steve said, they listen to what their problems are and they talk to them more or less as adults. And that's how you connect to children, by talking to them like they're real people and not what you imagine them to be. And I think really that's just basically it. I think you have to just basically treat them with respect, but not with undue respect. You know, there's something about this kid gloves treatment that I've seen on the left, especially on the left when dealing with Black Americans, where they're just so careful not to offend them in any way, and just constantly reinforcing about how liberal they are compared. You know, it's like, please, they're just people. If they make a mistake, call them on a mistake. Yeah. Just treat them the way you would treat anybody else. That's pretty simple, really.
Well, Hillary Clinton's greatest obstacle to the Oval Office, more threatening than her lack of tangible accomplishments, the Benghazi body count, and the active FBI investigation into her possibly felonious and treasonous handling of government secrets, is that even some of her own supporters don't like her. That said, Donald Trump could be her savior. If he's the nominee, Clinton could morph from a deceptive, conniving, power-hungry villain into a pitiable victim of Republican brutality and the civil rights icon of our time, stealing that diadem from Barack Obama. Now, voters don't mind seeing Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, or Ted Cruz get Trump slapped, but not even Clinton's androgynous pantsuits will insulate Trump from allegations of misogyny that could see women abandoning him left and right. Of course, the best way to avoid this is to nominate a gentleman who knows how to govern his mouth. Even then, Democrats will attempt to paint the Republican as a sexist who built the glass ceiling with his own bare hands. But persuadable voters have a nose for hypocrisy. And all they're after is a little of what Aretha Franklin was asking. Do I need to spell it out? For Stephen Green, Bill Whittle, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.